Earlier yesterday, I got a WhatsApp message with a link to Fox 26 Houston. And of course, Fox 26 Houston is a big TV station, also a YouTube channel. And Fox 26 Houston had a particular story that is gaining a lot of steam revolving Austin Holloman. Now, for those of you who know who Austin Holloman is, he's an African-American brother from Texas who was living in Salvador Bahia, Brazil. And of course, he had to recently leave Brazil for the fact that he offended some Brazilian feminists because he had an interview in which he asked the girl, would she sleep with a guy on the first date? Would she go home with a guy on the first date or kiss a guy on the first date? She answered yes to that. He published that on Twitter, and he was, from what I understand, afraid for his life because of the death threats he was receiving. So he ended up going to Thailand. And of course, Fox 26 Houston decided to cover this story on its YouTube channel and also on its television station. I'd like to play an excerpt of this particular interview in the panel, and then I'll come back.
And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. Is sex in your travel itinerary? It's one of the travel goals for a community called the Passport Bros, meaning brothers. It's a traveling community of upwardly mobile black men. Some are accused of going around the world searching for a more traditional and submissive wife. But is it all about sex and just a girlfriend for hire and then return home to humiliate black women in America? That's the controversy that we're dealing with. One of its members, Austin Holman, is apologizing for comments that he made about Brazilian women. Take a listen.
What I meant by when I said that Brazilian women are easy, and I shouldn't use the word easy. I know that now. I'm sorry. But what I'm saying is, for a man that's well-mannered, well-dressed, that has put in the effort to raise himself, he will have an easier time in Brazil as opposed to where I was from. That wasn't always the case.
Both American and women around the world are speaking out against the Passport Bros, arguing these guys are using their status to take advantage of women and even calling it a form of sex tourism and sex trafficking. Let's talk about it. Communications specialist Priscilla Pack and Rochelle Gemini both are here on The Factor Uncensored. We were supposed to do this last week. We're doing it this week. You have done a lot of research. When you think about and what you've heard about Passport Bros, your opinion on this so-called group?
Let me tell you, they weren't even on my radar. You brought it up to me, and then I saw it, and I was just like, oh, that's cute. You know, guys go and get their passports. My son just got his passport last week. He's 9, so that's cool. Passport brothers, that's what's up. Then I started doing the research, and I'm like, wait a minute. Because I grew up, you know, with 2-parent household. My parents still happily married. I grew up in love. Some people grew up in survival mode, and maybe they just in a whole nother dimension of trying to find love or trying to find easy situations and everything. But at the same time, it was like, why do you have to put down the thing that you don't like in front of everybody just to get the thing that you do want? I don't care.
That being black women in America, putting them down for women who may be of color in another country.
Right, that want to be a little more
also submissive
to
them.
Exactly.
But also paid prostitution in many cases.
And that's what they covering up. And you can tell that by the way that, what's his name, Austin, was talking, because I saw the other videos of him going like, hey, you would have sexual intercourse with me tonight, right? And she's saying, yes. They about to really get a lick on him. That's what's really about to happen. Because I also saw some of the women from overseas saying, yeah, we're just trying to get a lick. You know, they also came out saying, we know these Passport Bros. They not new.
So essentially, they're chumps themselves.
Yes.
They're simply Johns on the streets of America.
There might be some that might be actually looking for love that can't find it maybe in America, but you didn't let some rotten apples into y'all group, and y'all need to call the ones out that's not doing it correctly. Because baby, we not just in America. You can claim wherever you want to be anytime. I don't care. Get a passport. Go find your love. But at the same time, don't put down us just because you feel like you've had some rejection. Deal with rejection. Heal. Go do your thing. We don't care.
And
So let me just say this from Fox 26 Houston. Of course, this conversation seems to be a little biased. It seems like the one lady that had the butterfly tattoo, she was going into things that, in my honest opinion, don't really make very much sense. Like, she was raised in a 2-parent home. She received a love. Number one, like that had nothing to do with the argument. It's just a bunch of emotionalism that doesn't make much sense. And that was Rochelle Gemini. Shout out to her, but that didn't make any sense at all. Secondarily, she started saying things that kind of made sense with the fact, like, okay, if you want to go overseas and date foreign women, you shouldn't have to put down women in your own community to do so. And of course, that does happen. Austin Holloman does do that from time to time. So I can understand that point of view. But then again, when you're talking about, femininity and all this other stuff, they were not really looking at why these men were going over there in the first place. And even the other lady was talking a little bit about some other stuff. But the reality is that they didn't give a guy from the Passport Bro community to sort of push back on this. And of course, it's kind of pushing a narrative. Even there's a comment saying that I love it when the news tell multi parts of a story and not focus on pushing the narrative. Congratulations on being part of the problem and why people lost faith in Fox. So there was not a Passport Bro in Houston. Like, Dennis Sperling would have been a great advocate for that. He's right there in Houston. But I want people to understand the bigger picture. The bigger picture is this. People are going to make men look bad, and they're going to use men to do it. All right. This guy, Isaiah Factor, whatever his guy's name is. And they're going to paint the picture that, these black men are going overseas, just for sex tourism. And that's the only reason why. Instead of looking at the fact that, there's a problem in America with dating. And it's not just a black man thing. It's a American thing. All right. And again, these people are talking about, I grew up with 2 parents and, it doesn't make sense, right? Trying to find easy situations. And no, it's not necessarily it's trying to find the easy situation. Do you want to argue with your mate? I mean, do you want to be in situations where, that you can't get along with the person you're dealing with, or the person thinks they're better than you? That's the reality. And they're not ever addressing why these men are there in the first place. Why American men are there in the first place. And she goes with the shaming tactic that, these men are there because they're specifically paying for prostitution. Let's just be honest about that. You can do prostitution in the United States if you really want to be real. You don't have to go out of the country to do prostitution. In fact, it's actually more expensive to do that. I think a lot of those guys, or at least half of them, are going over to, see a different culture, live a higher quality of life. Obviously, yes, there's probably going to be some that sex involved, but you're not talking about why men are turned off by women in the first place. And this is why when you have these conversations with 2 women who are against the Passport Bro community or against men in general going overseas, you're going to get these one-sided discussions which don't address the issue at hand. But this is why men got to be careful. They're going to look, women have all the media. They have all the people who want to push women in the media. Andrew Tate don't got media. Austin Holloman don't got media. We don't own any TV stations or stuff like that. So you got to be very careful. Again, I think a lot of this stuff talking about, calling women out and things like that and why you're going someplace else needs to go underground like the guys did in the 80s. Not walking around showing yourselves with these women and stuff like that as much. Because again, they're going to try to start making anybody who does that seem to be a complete sex tourist, which we all know that that's not true. But that's what they're going to push. So guys got to be careful. But guys, what do you think? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of The Serving Drunk, Appreciate you for all that you do. Subscribe, hit the bell. We're out.